What if I told you that the most powerful man in ancient Rome struggled with the same choices you face every single day? That's right, Marcus Aurelius, who commanded legions and ruled an empire stretching from Britain to Syria, spent his mornings wrestling with procrastination, his afternoons battling anxiety, and his evenings questioning whether he was living up to his potential. How do I know this? Because he wrote it all down in his personal journal, which we now call meditations. I'm here to tell you that your life comes down to choices. Not big, dramatic, once-in-a-lifetime decisions, but small, daily choices that compound into who you become. Over the past decade, I've written 10 books about ancient philosophy, translating wisdom that's over 2,000 years old for modern readers. I've spoken to everyone from NBA champions to NFL teams, from Fortune 500 CEOs to struggling entrepreneurs. And here's what I've discovered. The most successful people aren't necessarily the smartest or the most talented. They're the ones who consistently make better choices. Stoicism isn't some dusty philosophy locked away in university libraries. It's a practical operating system for life, developed by people who faced real challenges. Emperors dealing with plagues, slaves fighting for dignity, merchants navigating financial ruin. These ancient thinkers discovered that while we can't control what happens to us, we have absolute power over how we respond. That power lies in our choices. Today, I'm going to share with you 10 specific choices that can transform your life. These aren't abstract concepts or feel-good platitudes. These are concrete decisions you can make starting right now, whether you're stuck in traffic, sitting at your desk, or lying in bed scrolling through your phone. Each choice is backed by Stoic wisdom that has survived over 2 millennia because it works. What you'll discover is that Marcus Aurelius, despite having unlimited power and wealth, faced the same internal battles we all do. He had to choose whether to get out of his warm bed on cold mornings. He had to choose how to respond when people disappointed him. He had to choose between what was easy and what was right. The difference? He had a framework for making these choices consistently well. That framework is what I'm about to share with you. 10 choices that, when made consistently, will revolutionize how you experience life. You don't need to be an emperor or a philosopher to apply them. You just need to be willing to choose differently than you did yesterday. So let's dive into the first choice, the one that makes all the others possible. Choice number 1. Control only what's yours to control. Everything else is noise. You're rushing to catch the subway at Grand Central Station in New York City. The train doors are closing, you sprint down the stairs, and just as you reach the platform, the train pulls away. Your meeting starts in 20 minutes. Your boss explicitly said, "Don't be late." Your heart is pounding. Your mind is racing through excuses, and you're furious at the universe for conspiring against you. Sound familiar? Here's what Epictetus, a former slave who became one of Rome's greatest philosophers, would tell you in this moment. You're wasting your energy on the wrong thing. The train leaving? Not in your control. The meeting time? Not in your control. Your boss's reaction? Definitely not in your control. But your response to this situation? That's entirely yours to command. Epictetus taught that the chief task in life is to identify and separate matters so that we can say clearly to ourselves which are externals not under our control, and which have to do with the choices we actually control. This isn't just ancient wisdom. It's practical psychology that can revolutionize how you experience every single day of your life. Think about how much mental energy you burn through in a typical day worrying about things you can't influence. The weather ruining your plans, traffic making you late, your colleague getting the promotion you wanted, the stock market tanking, political decisions you disagree with, other people's opinions of you, your sports team losing. These external events consume our thoughts, spike our blood pressure, and steal our peace of mind. Yet we have exactly zero control over any of them. Now imagine redirecting all that wasted energy toward what you actually can control. Your effort, your attitude, your responses, your decisions, your actions, your integrity, your next move. This isn't about becoming passive or not caring. It's about becoming strategically effective with your mental and emotional resources. Let me share how this plays out in real life. Sarah, a marketing director in Chicago, used to spend hours each day stressed about her company's stock price. She'd check it obsessively, let it dictate her mood, and lose sleep when it dropped. Then she realized something profound. Whether she checked the stock price 0 times or 50 times per day, it didn't change the number. Her worry had zero impact on market forces, but it had a massive impact on her performance, her creativity, and her well-being. So Sarah made a choice. She decided to focus exclusively on what she could control: the quality of her marketing campaigns, the creativity of her ideas, the leadership she provided her team. She stopped checking stock prices entirely. The result? Her performance improved so dramatically that she was promoted within 6 months. The stock price? It did whatever it was going to do anyway. This is what Epictetus meant when he said the chief task in life is this separation. It's not a one-time decision, it's a moment-by-moment practice. Every time you feel stress, anxiety, or anger rising, ask yourself, is this within my control? If the answer is no, you're looking at noise, static, distraction. Let it go and redirect your energy toward what you can actually influence. The modern world makes this practice more critical than ever. We're bombarded with information about events happening thousands of miles away, opinions from people we've never met, and endless comparisons on social media. Our ancestors worried about their crops and their immediate community. We worry about global politics, celebrity scandals, and whether strangers on the internet approve of our breakfast choices. No wonder anxiety rates are through the roof. But here's the transformative part. Once you truly internalize this principle, life becomes simpler and more powerful. You stop being a victim of circumstances. You stop wasting energy on resentment, worry, and wish thinking. You become focused, effective, and surprisingly calm even in chaos. Take that missed subway scenario. Once you accept the train is gone, truly accept it, not just intellectually but emotionally, your mind clears. Now you can focus on what you control, calling ahead to warn about the delay, finding alternative transportation, preparing your contribution so well that your late arrival becomes irrelevant, maintaining your professionalism despite the stress. These are choices within your power. Marcus Aurelius, despite being the most powerful man in the world, practiced this principle daily. He wrote in his journal, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." Think about that. An emperor who could command armies and change laws recognized that his true power lay not in controlling external events, but in controlling his responses to them. This choice to focus only on what's in your control is foundational because it makes every other choice possible. When you stop wasting energy on externals, you have the clarity and strength to make better decisions about everything else. It's like clearing your computer's RAM of unnecessary programs so the important ones can run properly. The question is, will you make this choice? Will you choose to identify what's truly in your control and release everything else? Will you choose to stop being pushed around by circumstances and start responding with intention? The power is yours. The choice is yours. Everything else? That's just noise. Choice number 2. Start today, not tomorrow. A screenwriter sits in her Los Angeles apartment, staring at a blank page. She's been about to start her script for 3 months. Tomorrow, she tells herself, tomorrow I'll have more energy. Tomorrow I'll feel more inspired. Tomorrow the conditions will be perfect. But Marcus Aurelius, writing by candlelight on the Danube frontier while managing a plague and a war, had something to say about tomorrow. At dawn, when you have trouble getting out of bed, tell yourself, I have to go to work as a human being. The most powerful man in Rome understood a truth that destroys more dreams than failure ever could. We choose tomorrow instead of today. Marcus wrote in his private journal, you could be good today, but instead you choose tomorrow. These aren't the words of a motivational speaker trying to pump you up. These are the reflections of a man who understood that postponement is a choice, a bad one that we make over and over again. Here's what's fascinating about procrastination. We all know exactly what we need to do. Information isn't the problem. If knowledge alone could change behavior, nobody would be overweight, no project would go unfinished, and gym memberships would actually get used past January. We have the internet, unlimited access to every piece of how-to information ever created. Yet we're still stuck. The Stoics identified this gap between knowing and doing as one of humanity's core challenges. They even had a name for it, the discipline of action. It's not enough to understand philosophy to read the right books or to have good intentions. Philosophy is about what you do, not what you know. As Epictetus put it bluntly to his students, don't explain your philosophy. Embody it. Think about your own life right now. What are you putting off? Starting that business. Having that difficult conversation. Getting your finances in order. Beginning your fitness journey. Writing that book. Making that career change. Learning that skill. You know what needs to be done. You might even know exactly how to do it. But you're choosing tomorrow. The psychology behind this choice is seductive. Tomorrow you seems so much more capable than today you. Tomorrow you will be well rested, motivated, and ready. Tomorrow you won't have this headache, this busy schedule, this mental fog. Tomorrow you is basically a superhero. The only problem? Tomorrow you is a fantasy. When tomorrow becomes today, you'll make the same choice again. Marcus Aurelius faced this same temptation every single morning. Read his journal and you'll find a man struggling to get out of bed, fighting the urge to procrastinate, willing himself to do what needs to be done. He writes about the warmth of his blankets on cold mornings, the appeal of just a few more minutes of sleep, the temptation to delay his duties. Sound familiar? Even emperors choose tomorrow. But here's what separated Marcus from the masses. He recognized this choice for what it was and developed strategies to overcome it. He didn't wait for motivation. He didn't need perfect conditions. He understood that action creates momentum, not the other way around. No one can stop you from that, he reminded himself about taking action. External obstacles might block your preferred path, but they can't stop you from taking some step forward. Let me share a practical truth that changes everything. The first step is always the hardest, but it's also the smallest. You don't have to write the entire screenplay today. You just have to write one scene. You don't have to transform your entire life. You just have to make one better choice. You don't have to run a marathon. You just have to put on your shoes and walk to the end of the block. This is how a software engineer in Seattle finally launched her startup after 2 years of planning. She stopped waiting for the perfect business plan, the ideal market conditions, the complete product. Instead, she chose to take one concrete action each day. Day 1, register the domain name. Day 2, create a basic landing page. Day 3, reach out to one potential customer. 6 months later, she had a functioning business with paying clients. Not because conditions became perfect, but because she chose today over tomorrow repeatedly. The Stoics understood that life is nothing but a series of present moments. The past is gone. The future is uncertain. All you have is now. Marcus wrote, "Confine yourself to the present. When you choose tomorrow, you're rejecting the only time that actually exists. You're betting your life on a moment that may never come." This doesn't mean being reckless or unprepared. It means recognizing that preparation can become procrastination in disguise. How much research is enough? How much planning is sufficient? At some point, you have to choose action over perfection. You have to choose starting over strategizing. You have to choose doing over dreaming. The discipline of action isn't about massive efforts or heroic gestures. It's about consistently choosing to take the next right step, however small. It's about closing the gap between intention and action. It's about recognizing that your life is shaped not by what you plan to do tomorrow, but by what you choose to do today. So here's your choice. Will you be good today, or will you choose tomorrow? Will you take that first imperfect step, or will you wait for conditions that will never be perfect? Will you embody your philosophy, or just explain it? The pen is in your hand. The moment is now. Tomorrow is a luxury you can't afford. Choose today. Choice number 3. Refuse to suffer twice. Why anxiety lies. Tomorrow morning, you have a job interview for your dream position at a Chicago firm. It's 2 a.m. and you're wide awake, running through every possible disaster scenario. What if you forget their names? What if they ask about that gap in your resume? What if you stumble over your words? What if traffic is horrible? What if your outfit isn't right? Your heart races, your palms sweat, and you feel sick to your stomach. You're suffering intensely from something that hasn't even happened yet. Seneca, the Roman statesman and Stoic philosopher, had a penetrating insight about this very human tendency. We suffer more in imagination than in reality. Think about that for a moment. The interview hasn't happened. You're not actually stumbling over words or facing tough questions. You're lying in your bed, physically safe and comfortable. Yet your body is responding as if the disaster is happening right now. Your imagination has become your torturer. This is what anxiety does. It makes you suffer twice. Once in your mind, through fear and worry, and potentially once in reality if the feared event actually occurs. But here's the kicker. Most of what we worry about never happens. And even when our fears do materialize, they're rarely as bad as our imagination predicted. Our mind is a terrible fortune teller but an excellent fear factory. Consider what's actually happening when anxiety takes hold. You're using your powerful imagination, a gift that allows humans to create art, solve problems, and build civilizations, to construct detailed scenarios of failure and humiliation. You're choosing to live in a dark fantasy instead of reality. You're punishing yourself for crimes you haven't committed, failures you haven't experienced, and disasters that exist only in your mind. The ancient Stoics weren't naive about life's difficulties. They lived through plagues, wars, exile, and persecution. They knew that bad things happen, but they also understood that anticipating suffering doesn't prevent it. It only guarantees that you'll suffer whether the bad thing happens or not. As Seneca wrote to his friend Lucilius, "The mind that is anxious about future events is miserable." Let me share how this plays out in modern life. Jennifer, a marketing manager in Boston, spent months dreading her annual performance review. She lost sleep, snapped at her family, and couldn't enjoy her weekends because Monday meant one day closer to the review. She imagined her boss listing her failures, her colleagues judging her, maybe even losing her job. When the review finally came, her boss praised her work and gave her a raise. All that suffering for nothing. But even if the review had been negative, would the months of anxiety have helped? Would worry have improved her performance? No, it only stole her peace and joy for months. This is anxiety's great lie. That worry is productive, that fear is protective, that suffering in advance somehow prepares you for challenges. But preparation and anxiety are entirely different things. Preparation involves taking concrete actions, updating your resume, practicing interview questions, researching the company. Anxiety involves spinning mental horror stories that paralyze rather than prepare you. The Stoics developed a powerful practice to combat this tendency. They called it premeditatio malorum, the premeditation of evils. But this isn't what it sounds like. It's not about dwelling on disasters. It's about briefly considering what could go wrong, accepting that possibility, and then returning to the present moment. It's about removing fear's power through acceptance, not amplifying it through resistance. Here's how it works. Yes, the interview might go poorly. If it does, you'll handle it. You'll learn from it. You'll apply elsewhere. Life will go on. You've survived every difficult experience in your life so far, you'll survive this too. Once you've acknowledged this truth, you can return to the present and focus on what you actually control. Preparing well, getting rest, showing up as your best self. Marcus Aurelius practiced this principle even as emperor. He wrote, "Today I shall be meeting with interference, ingratitude, insolence, disloyalty, ill will, and selfishness." Was he being pessimistic? No. He was being realistic and removing the shock value from potential difficulties. By accepting that challenges might arise, he freed himself from anxiety about them. He could respond with wisdom rather than react with panic. The choice to refuse suffering twice is really a choice about where to direct your mental energy. Every moment you spend in anxiety is a moment stolen from preparation, presence, or peace. It's a moment you could have spent improving your situation rather than imagining its destruction. It's a choice to live in a painful fantasy rather than engaging with actual reality. This doesn't mean suppressing legitimate concerns or pretending problems don't exist. It means recognizing the difference between productive planning and destructive worry. Planning has an endpoint and leads to action. Worry is circular and leads only to more worry. Planning empowers. Anxiety paralyzes. Planning addresses real problems. Anxiety creates imaginary ones. The truth is, life will bring enough real challenges without you creating extra suffering in your imagination. You'll face actual setbacks, real disappointments, genuine losses. When those moments come, you'll need all your strength and clarity to handle them well. Why exhaust yourself fighting phantoms? Why waste your resilience on battles that may never come? So here's your choice. Will you suffer twice? Or will you choose to stay grounded in reality? Will you let anxiety lie to you about the future? Or will you focus on what you can actually do in the present? Will you be miserable about possibilities? Or will you save your energy for actualities? The interview tomorrow will go however it goes. But right now, in this moment, you can choose peace over panic. You can choose to refuse anxiety's invitation to suffer in advance. You can choose to suffer only once, if at all. Choice number 4. Say no to say yes to what matters. A software developer in San Francisco stares at his calendar, completely booked from 6 a.m. to 10 p.m. Startup pitch meetings, networking events, coding bootcamp mentoring, podcast recordings, coffee chats with aspiring entrepreneurs, plus his actual job. He's everywhere, helping everyone, saying yes to every opportunity. He's also exhausted. His own startup idea remains untouched, and his relationships are crumbling. He's so busy being successful that he's failing at what actually matters to him. Seneca captured this paradox perfectly. Every new thing excites the mind, but a mind that seeks truth turns from the new and superficial to the old and profound. But his most cutting observation was this: to be everywhere is to be nowhere. When you say yes to everything, you're saying no to excellence. When you're spread thin across dozens of commitments, you can't go deep on anything that truly matters. Here's the uncomfortable truth. Saying yes is easy. Feels good in the moment. People like you when you say yes. You feel important, needed, generous. Saying no? That's hard. It risks disappointment, judgment, missed opportunities. But here's what we miss. Every yes carries an invisible no. Every commitment to one thing is a rejection of something else. The question isn't whether you'll say no, it's whether you'll do it consciously or by default. Think about what happens when you say yes to that networking event. You're saying no to dinner with your family. When you say yes to another project at work, you're saying no to the personal project that could change your life. When you say yes to scrolling through social media, you're saying no to reading that book, having that conversation, taking that walk. Time doesn't expand because you've overcommit. Something always gets sacrificed. The Stoics understood that greatness requires focus. Marcus Aurelius, despite having an empire's worth of demands on his time, carved out space for philosophy, for reflection, for what mattered most. He didn't try to be everywhere or please everyone. He understood that wisdom meant choosing carefully where to direct his finite energy and attention. Modern life makes this choice harder than ever. We're bombarded with opportunities, invitations, and obligations. FOMO, fear of missing out, drives us to say yes to things we don't even want to do. Social media shows us all the events we're not attending, all the connections we're not making, all the opportunities we're not seizing. We feel guilty for having boundaries, selfish for protecting our time, anxious about disappointing others. But consider what happens when you don't choose. Sarah, a consultant in New York, said yes to every client request, every speaking opportunity, every favor asked by colleagues. She prided herself on being helpful, available, indispensable. Then her health collapsed. Chronic stress led to autoimmune issues that forced her into medical leave. During her recovery, something interesting happened. Her clients found other consultants, her colleagues solved their own problems, and the world kept spinning without her constant availability. All those urgent requests that she couldn't say no to, they weren't that urgent after all. This is the illusion that keeps us trapped. The belief that we're irreplaceable, that others can't manage without us, that saying no makes us bad people. But saying no isn't about being selfish, it's about being strategic. It's about recognizing that you can do a few things excellently or many things poorly. It's about understanding that your value doesn't come from being available to everyone, but from being excellent at what matters most. The Roman Stoics had a concept called preferred indifference, things that are nice to have but not essential to a good life. Most of what we say yes to falls into this category. Nice opportunities, pleasant activities, good causes, but not essential to our core purpose. The discipline comes in distinguishing between what's merely good and what's truly important. Here's a practical framework. Before saying yes to anything, ask yourself 3 questions. First, does this align with my core values and long-term goals? Second, what will I have to say no to if I say yes to this? Third, am I saying yes out of enthusiasm or obligation? If you're not enthusiastic about the yes and clear about the trade-offs, your answer should be no. This doesn't mean becoming a hermit or never helping others. It means being intentional about your choices. When you say no to good opportunities, you create space for great ones. When you say no to urgent but unimportant requests, you have energy for important but not urgent work. When you say no to dispersed effort, you can say yes to focused excellence. The fear, of course, is that opportunities won't come back, that people will stop asking, that doors will close forever. But here's what actually happens when you start saying no strategically. People respect your time more, your yes becomes more valuable, and better opportunities emerge because you have space to recognize and pursue them. Quality attracts quality. Excellence attracts excellence. But you can't achieve either when you're drowning in commitments. Seneca wrote, "Nothing, Lucilius, is ours except time. Every yes you give is a portion of your life you'll never get back. Every commitment is a claim on your finite existence." The question isn't whether you'll spend your time. It's whether you'll spend it consciously on what matters or unconsciously on what merely appears urgent. So here's your choice. Will you continue saying yes to everything and no to excellence? Will you spread yourself so thin that you're everywhere but nowhere? Or will you choose the harder path, saying no to good things so you can say yes to great things? Will you disappoint some people in the short term to avoid disappointing yourself in the long term? The power to choose your focus is yours. Use it wisely. Choice number 5. Treat your time like gold. Stop wasting it. A college student in Boston sits in the library, textbook open, highlighter in hand. But her eyes aren't on the page. They're on her phone, scrolling through Instagram, watching stories of people she barely knows living lives that aren't hers. 3 hours pass. The textbook remains on chapter 1. The exam is tomorrow. She tells herself she'll start in 5 more minutes, But we all know how that story ends. She's wealthy in time but spending it like a billionaire in a casino, throwing it away on games designed to never let her win. The Stoics had an urgent message about time that modern life makes even more critical. You're going to die. Memento mori, remember death, wasn't meant to be morbid. It was meant to be motivating. As Marcus Aurelius wrote, "It is not death that a man should fear, but never beginning to live." Every moment you waste scrolling, worrying about others' opinions, dwelling on past mistakes, or paralyzed by future fears is a moment of your life you've rejected. Seneca was particularly sharp about this. He wrote, "It is not that we have a short time to live, but that we waste a lot of it. Life is long enough, and it has been given in sufficiently generous measure to allow the accomplishment of the very greatest things if the whole of it is well invested." Notice that last part, if it is well invested. Time is the only real wealth you have, and unlike money, you can't earn more of it. Think about how you spent yesterday. Really think about it. How many hours went to activities that, if you were on your deathbed, you'd regret? How much time disappeared into the black hole of social media? How many minutes evaporated in pointless arguments, gossip, or complaining? How much of your day was spent reliving conversations that already happened or rehearsing ones that never will? The modern world has engineered countless ways to steal your time. Apps designed by neuroscientists to be addictive. News cycles that create urgency about events you can't influence. Social media that makes you feel connected while keeping you from real connection. Streaming services that autoplay the next episode before you can decide if you actually want to watch it. We live in an attention economy where your time is the product being sold. But here's what's truly insidious. We often waste time on things that seem productive. Take Michael, a financial analyst in Chicago. He spends hours each day reading about productivity systems, watching motivational videos, reorganizing his to-do lists, and planning the perfect morning routine. He feels busy, even virtuous, but he's not doing the actual work. He's mistaking motion for progress, preparation for action. He's wasting time in sophisticated ways, but wasting it nonetheless. The Stoics identified several key time wasters that are just as relevant today. First, regretting the past. As Marcus Aurelius noted, every moment you spend wishing you had done something differently is a moment spent not doing something better. The past is gone. You can learn from it, but living in it is like trying to drive forward while staring in the rearview mirror. Second, worrying about what others think. Epictetus was blunt. How much trouble he avoids who does not look to see what his neighbor says or does. In our social media age, we waste enormous energy curating our image, comparing our lives to others' highlight reels, and seeking validation from strangers. Every minute spent crafting the perfect post is a minute not spent living a life worth posting about. Third, complaining about things outside your control. Traffic, weather, politics, other people's behavior. We burn through hours of our lives expressing outrage about things that our outrage cannot change. As the Stoics constantly reminded us, this is not just wasteful. It's irrational. You're spending your finite life force on infinite impossibilities. But perhaps the most dangerous time waster is the illusion of unlimited tomorrows. We operate as if we're immortal, as if we can afford to waste today because we'll have endless opportunities to make up for it. Seneca observed, "Everyone hustles his life along, and is troubled by a longing for the future and weariness of the present. We're so focused on someday that we miss today. Here's a practical exercise. Calculate roughly how many weeks you have left if you live to 80. If you're 30, that's about 2,600 weeks. Seems like a lot? Now subtract sleeping, working, commuting. How many conscious, choice-filled hours remain? Still feel wealthy? This isn't meant to panic you, but to prioritize you. When you see time as finite, you stop treating it as worthless. The choice to treat time like gold means making hard decisions. It means leaving conversations that drain you. It means deleting apps that steal your attention. It means saying no to obligations that don't align with your values. It means choosing discomfort over distraction when discomfort leads to growth. It means accepting that some people will call you selfish, antisocial, or too serious. Let them. They're spending their gold. You're investing yours. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "At dawn, when you have trouble getting out of bed, tell yourself, I have to go to work as a human being. What do I have to complain of? If I'm going to do what I was born for, the things I was brought into the world to do." Every moment is a choice between living as a human being, creating, connecting, contributing, or merely existing as a consumer of distractions. The paradox is that when you treat time as precious, you often find you have more of it. When you cut out the wasteful, the meaningless, the merely urgent, you discover space for what matters. When you stop letting others set your agenda, you find time for your own priorities. When you quit social media's infinite scroll, you rediscover life's finite but profound moments. So here's your choice. Will you continue treating your time as worthless, letting it slip through your fingers into the pockets of app developers and attention merchants? Will you keep telling yourself you'll start living tomorrow? Or will you choose right now to treat your remaining moments as the gold they are? Will you invest them in what matters or waste them on what merely distracts? The clock is ticking. It always has been. The only question is whether you'll finally hear it. Choice number 6. Stay calm when everything goes wrong, like astronauts do. Miami International Airport, peak summer travel season. Your flight to your sister's wedding is canceled. The gate agent shrugs, says weather offers no solutions. The next available flight is in 2 days. The wedding is tomorrow. Your blood pressure spikes, your face flushes, and you're about to unleash fury on this agent who's just doing their job. But wait, will your anger make planes fly? Will your rage change the weather? Will losing your temper somehow teleport you to the wedding? You know the answer, yet the urge to explode feels irresistible. Here's what NASA learned when selecting astronauts for the space program. Technical skill mattered less than emotional regulation. They could teach someone to pilot a spacecraft. They couldn't teach someone to stay calm when that spacecraft started breaking apart. As Canadian astronaut Chris Hadfield explained, "There's no problem so bad that you can't make it worse. In space, panic doesn't just ruin your day, it kills you." The astronaut selection process was brutal, not physically but emotionally. Candidates were subjected to isolation, sensory deprivation, equipment failures, and cascading crises. NASA watched who maintained composure, who could think clearly under pressure, who didn't let emotions hijack their reasoning. They discovered something profound. Emotional control isn't a personality trait. It's a trainable skill. Consider John Glenn, orbiting Earth in a tiny capsule, discovering his heat shield might be loose. Re-entry without a functioning heat shield means burning alive. His heart rate during this potential death sentence? It never exceeded 100 beats per minute. How? Years of practice. Thousands of hours in simulators facing every conceivable disaster. By the time real crisis hit, his nervous system had been trained to respond with calm assessment rather than panic. The Stoics understood this principle 2,000 years before NASA. Epictetus taught, "It's not things themselves that disturb us, but our judgments about those things." That canceled flight isn't making you angry. Your judgment that it's unfair, catastrophic, or personal is creating the anger. The event is neutral. Your response is a choice. Marcus Aurelius, managing plagues, wars, and political betrayals, developed a practice he called the view from above. When overwhelmed, he'd imagine seeing his situation from cosmic height, his problems shrinking to their actual size. He'd remind himself, the universe is change. Our life is what our thoughts make it. Not what happens to us, what our thoughts make of what happens to us. But let's be practical. You're not an emperor or an astronaut. You're dealing with modern stressors. Road rage in Los Angeles traffic, workplace drama in Manhattan offices, family conflicts in suburban Dallas. The stakes feel high even if they're not life or death. Your body doesn't distinguish between a charging lion and a nasty email from your boss. The stress response floods your system either way. Here's where the astronaut training method becomes useful for everyday life. Astronauts use a technique called, "What's the next right thing?" When systems fail, when alarms scream, when death looms, they don't focus on the totality of the crisis. They identify the next single action that moves them towards safety. Just one thing, then the next, then the next. Calm comes from clarity of action, not from feeling calm. A marketing director in Seattle discovered this during what she called her worst day ever. Major client threatening to leave, team member quit without notice, presentation file corrupted an hour before the pitch. Her old pattern would be to catastrophize, blame, panic. Instead, she asked, "What's the next right thing?" Call the client to listen, then delegate the urgent tasks, then rebuild the presentation. One step, one breath, one decision at a time. The client stayed, impressed by her composed response to crisis. The Stoics called this prosok, continuous attention to the present moment. Not in some mystical sense, but in recognizing that you can only control your current response. You can't change what just happened. You can't guarantee what happens next. But right now, in this moment, you can choose calm over chaos. This doesn't mean suppressing emotions or pretending problems don't exist. Even astronauts feel fear. The difference is they don't let fear drive the spacecraft. They acknowledge it. Yes, this is dangerous. Then return to procedure. Feel the emotion, choose the action. As Seneca wrote, "Every new thing excites the mind, but a mind that seeks truth turns from excitement to calm observation." The modern world tests this choice constantly. 24-hour news cycles designed to provoke outrage. Social media algorithms that amplify conflict. Workplaces that reward busy panic over calm productivity. We're surrounded by people and systems that profit from our emotional volatility. Choosing calm is almost a radical act. But here's what happens when you make this choice consistently. Problems get smaller. Not because they change, but because your capacity to handle them grows. That flight cancellation becomes a logistics puzzle, not a personal catastrophe. That work crisis becomes a challenge to navigate, not a reason to spiral. That family conflict becomes a communication issue, not a relationship ender. Epictetus offered a powerful reframe. When a challenge confronts you, remember that God is matching you with a younger sparring partner, as would a physical trainer. Why? Becoming an Olympian takes sweat. Every stressor is training. Every crisis is practice. Every moment you choose calm over chaos, you're building the mental muscle that will serve you in bigger challenges ahead. The question isn't whether life will test you. It will. Systems will fail, people will disappoint, plans will crumble. The question is whether you'll meet these moments like an astronaut or like an amateur. Will you let emotions hijack your spacecraft? Will you make problems worse with your response? Or will you choose the calm that comes from clarity, the peace that comes from practice, the power that comes from presence? That gate agent is still waiting for your response. Your blood is still hot. The wedding is still tomorrow. But now you have a choice. Explosion or exploration. What's the next right thing? Maybe it's a deep breath. Maybe it's asking different questions. Maybe it's calling your sister with calm honesty instead of frantic promises. The situation hasn't changed, but your power to respond wisely, that's always within your control. Choice number 7. Never stop learning. Even Marcus Aurelius felt unfinished. A startup founder in Seattle just sold her company for 8 figures. The tech blogs are calling her a visionary. Speaking invitations flood in. Younger entrepreneurs seek her mentorship. She's made it, right? She's arrived. The learning phase is over, and now it's time to teach. Except that's exactly when the decline begins. The moment you believe you've figured it all out. The moment you stop being a student and start being only a sage. Marcus Aurelius, the most powerful man in the world, writing in his private journal near the end of his life, confessed, "Be like the rocky headland on which the waves constantly break. It stands firm, and round it the seething waters are laid to rest. Unlucky that this should happen to me. Not at all. Lucky that, being what I am, I can bear it without pain, neither crushed by the present nor fearful of the future." Even in his final years, he was still teaching himself new ways to think, still practicing, still growing. He never wrote, "I've mastered philosophy." He wrote, "You're still a long way off from being a philosopher." This is the paradox of true wisdom. The more you learn, the more you realize you don't know. A great physicist once captured this perfectly. As our island of knowledge grows, so does the shoreline of ignorance. Every answer reveals 10 new questions. Every skill mastered shows you 5 more you haven't touched. Every summit reached reveals a higher peak. The beginner thinks the mountain has a top. The master knows it doesn't. Epictetus was brutal about this with his students. He said there's nothing less philosophical than someone who puts on airs about their progress, who brags about their breakthroughs, who thinks they've graduated from learning. Why? Because arrogance is ignorance in disguise. The moment you think you know enough is the moment you stop knowing more. Consider what happens when successful people stop learning. The executive who made millions with one strategy keeps using it as the market evolves past him. The doctor who graduated top of her class 30 years ago resists new treatments that could save lives. The parent who raised successful kids 20 years ago can't understand why the same methods fail with today's teenagers. They're not stupid. They're stuck. They chose expertise over evolution. The danger is especially acute after success. When you're struggling, learning feels necessary. When you're failing, humility comes naturally. But when you're winning, that's when the temptation strikes to coast, to rest on your laurels, to believe your own hype. That's when you're most vulnerable to what the Stoics called hubris, the arrogance that makes you think you're above learning. A venture capitalist in San Francisco shared his wake-up call. After a string of successful investments, he started dismissing new trends, ignoring younger voices, trusting only his proven playbook. His returns plummeted. Startups he rejected became unicorns. His reputation shifted from visionary to dinosaur. The lesson hit hard. In a changing world, yesterday's expertise becomes today's liability if you stop updating it. But here's what makes this choice so difficult. Learning requires vulnerability. It means admitting ignorance. It means looking foolish. It means being the beginner in a room full of experts. After you've built a reputation, earned respect, achieved success, who wants to raise their hand and say, "I don't understand"? Who wants to struggle with basics when you're used to mastering complexities? The Stoics had a practice for this. They called it beginner's mind, approaching familiar topics as if encountering them for the first time. Marcus Aurelius read the same philosophical texts repeatedly, finding new insights each time. Not because the texts changed, but because he did. Every day brought new experiences that revealed new meanings in old wisdom. This is radically different from how we typically approach learning. We think of education as a phase, something you complete like filling a bucket. Graduate from school and you're educated. Finish training and you're trained. Read the books and you're well-read. But the Stoics saw learning as breathing, something you do until you die. Stop learning, stop growing. Stop growing, start dying. Modern neuroscience confirms what the Stoics intuited. Our brains remain plastic throughout life. We can form new neural pathways, develop new capabilities, and change ingrained patterns at any age. The limitation isn't biological, it's psychological. It's the choice to stay comfortable rather than stay curious. A 60-year-old attorney in Denver proved this when she decided to learn coding. Her colleagues thought she'd lost her mind. Why struggle with Python when she'd mastered legal briefs? But she saw how technology was transforming law. Instead of becoming obsolete, she became invaluable, the rare lawyer who could speak both languages. Her willingness to be bad at something new made her exceptional at something necessary. The choice to never stop learning isn't just about acquiring skills. It's about maintaining the humility that keeps you human. When you know it all, you can't connect with those who don't. When you've arrived, you can't guide those still traveling. When you're done growing, you're done contributing at your highest level. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "The impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way." Every moment of confusion is an opportunity to gain clarity. Every mistake is a chance to develop wisdom. Every challenge that reveals your ignorance is a gift showing you where to grow next. But only if you choose to see it that way. So here's your choice. Will you decide you've learned enough? That you've reached your peak? That it's time to coast on what you know? Will you let success make you soft? Let expertise make you rigid? Let achievement make you arrogant? Or will you choose the harder path? remaining a student even as others call you teacher? Will you keep your beginner's mind even as you develop master skills? Will you accept that the mountain has no top, that the journey has no end, that the learning never stops? The shoreline of your ignorance is calling. It's not an insult, it's an invitation. The question is whether you'll accept it. Choice number 8. Stand up for those who can't. True Stoic courage. You're in a Denver conference room watching your colleague Sarah, the only black woman on the team, present her innovative marketing strategy. Halfway through, the VP interrupts, dismisses her ideas as too ambitious, and turns to ask Jake, who joined the company last month, for his thoughts. Jake proceeds to repeat Sarah's exact points, almost word for word. The VP nods approvingly, says brilliant thinking, and the room murmurs agreement. Sarah's face remains professional, but you see her hands tremble slightly as she sits down. Everyone else seems to pretend nothing happened. Your silence feels like a weight in your chest. This is where Stoic philosophy stops being academic and becomes achingly practical. The Stoics didn't just contemplate virtue in comfortable libraries. They lived it in Senate floors and marketplaces, in palaces and prisons. And nowhere is Stoic virtue more tested than in the choice to stand up for those who can't stand up for themselves. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "What brings no benefit to the hive brings none to the bee." We're interconnected. Injustice anywhere weakens the whole system. When you allow someone to be diminished in your presence, you diminish yourself. When you stay silent in the face of wrong, you become complicit in that wrong. The Stoics understood that courage isn't just about facing your own challenges. It's about facing challenges on behalf of others. Look at the greatest moments in Stoic history. Cato the Younger didn't just oppose Julius Caesar's power grab for personal reasons. He saw tyranny threatening the Roman Republic and everyone living under it. He stood in the Senate, often alone, speaking for those whose voices were being silenced. Rutilius Rufus, when offered a corrupt bargain that would have enriched him while exploiting Roman provinces, refused and was exiled for it. He chose poverty and principle over wealth and comfort. But these aren't just ancient stories. They're templates for modern choices. Every day, in offices and schools, in stores and streets, on social media and in social gatherings, we witness moments where someone with less power is being mistreated by someone with more. The question isn't whether you'll see injustice, you will. The question is whether you'll do something about it. A software engineer in Austin shared his moment of choice. During a code review, his manager publicly humiliated a junior developer, a recent immigrant whose English wasn't perfect. The criticism went beyond the code to mock his communication skills. Everyone looked at their screens, uncomfortable but silent. The engineer felt his heart racing. Speaking up could damage his relationship with the manager, maybe even his career. But he remembered something Seneca wrote. Every new thing excites the mind, but a mind that seeks truth turns from the new and superficial to the old and profound. The old, profound truth? Human dignity matters more than career comfort. He spoke up, calmly but firmly. He redirected the conversation to the code's merits and offered to help with documentation. The manager backed down. After the meeting, 3 other colleagues thanked him. They'd wanted to speak but didn't know how. The junior developer? He's now a team lead, partly because someone showed him he was worth defending. This is what people misunderstand about Stoic courage. It's not about being fearless. It's about acting despite fear when justice demands it. Marcus Aurelius didn't pass laws protecting slaves because he felt no risk. He did it knowing that wealthy Romans would oppose him, that tradition was against him, that even his advisors would question him. He did it anyway because it was right. The modern world makes this choice both easier and harder. Easier because we have more protections, more avenues for speaking up, more awareness of injustice. Harder because the injustices are often subtler, the consequences less clear, the social pressures more complex. The simpler to oppose a tyrant than to confront everyday bias. It's clearer to fight obvious oppression than to challenge systemic unfairness. But here's what the Stoics knew. Small acts of courage compound into cultural change. When you speak up in that meeting, you don't just help Sarah, you show everyone that such behavior won't go unchallenged. When you intervene as someone's being harassed on the subway, you don't just protect them, you remind bystanders that we're responsible for each other. When you use your privilege to amplify marginalized voices, you don't just share power, you model what justice looks like. The excuses are always ready. It's not my place. I might make it worse. They can handle themselves. I have too much to lose. But Epictetus cut through such rationalizations. What is the fruit of these teachings? Only the most beautiful and proper harvest of the truly educated tranquility, fearlessness, and freedom. We should not trust the masses who say only the free can be educated, but rather the lovers of wisdom who say that only the educated are free. True freedom isn't the absence of risk. It's the choice to do right regardless of risk. True education isn't knowing philosophy. It's living it when it's hard. True Stoicism isn't personal tranquility achieved by ignoring injustice. It's the tranquility that comes from knowing you didn't let fear make you a coward. A teacher in Philadelphia discovered this during a parent-teacher conference. A father was berating his son for not being man enough, mocking his interest in art instead of sports. Other teachers shifted uncomfortably. The boy shrunk in his chair. She could have stayed silent. The father was influential in the community, known for making trouble for those who crossed him. Instead, she calmly redirected. Your son's artistic talent is remarkable. His empathy and creativity will serve him well in any field. She then showed the father his son's portfolio. The mood shifted. The boy sat up straighter. Sometimes standing up for someone means helping others see their worth. Marcus Aurelius wrote that the fruit of this life is good character and acts for the common good. Not personal excellence alone, but excellence used in service of justice. Not individual virtue in isolation, but virtue that strengthens the whole community. Not courage for your own battles only, but courage for those who can't fight alone. So here's your choice. Will you be the person who looks away when power abuses powerlessness? Will you choose comfort over conscience, silence over justice, personal safety over communal strength? Or will you be the one who speaks when others won't, who stands when others sit, who remembers that we rise or fall together? That conference room is waiting. Sarah is waiting. Your character is waiting. What will you choose? Choice number 9. Be bad before you're good. The genius of looking stupid. A 45-year-old executive walks into a CrossFit gym in Austin. She's led board meetings, managed million-dollar budgets, commanded respect in every room she enters. Now she's struggling to do a single push-up while 20-somethings flip tires around her. Her face burns with embarrassment. Every instinct screams, "Leave, preserve your dignity, stick to what you know. This is beneath you. You're making a fool of yourself. Everyone's watching you fail." But Epictetus had something profound to say about this moment. If you want to improve, be content to be thought foolish and stupid with regard to external things. Don't wish to be thought to know anything. And even if you appear to be somebody important to others, distrust yourself. Read that again. Be content to be thought foolish, not just willing. Content, as if looking stupid is not the price of growth but the path to it. This cuts against everything modern society teaches us. We're supposed to project competence, maintain our image, never show weakness. Social media is a highlight reel where everyone's an expert. LinkedIn is full of thought leaders who've never had a learning thought. We've created a culture where admitting ignorance feels like admitting defeat. But here's the truth the Stoics understood. You cannot learn what you think you already know. You cannot grow where you pretend to be complete. You cannot improve while protecting your image of perfection. Every master was once a disaster. Every expert was once embarrassing. Every skill you now perform effortlessly once made you look ridiculous. Marcus Aurelius, despite being emperor, consistently reminded himself of his ignorance. He wrote about struggling with basic philosophical concepts, failing to live up to his ideals, needing constant reminders of fundamental truths. Was he being falsely modest? No. He understood that maintaining beginner's mind was the only way to keep growing. The moment you stop being willing to look foolish is the moment you stop becoming wise. Think about what happens when we refuse to look stupid. A brilliant lawyer in Chicago avoided learning new legal software for years. Why? She didn't want junior associates to see her struggling with basics they'd mastered. Result? She became increasingly obsolete, dependent on others, eventually passed over for partnership. Her refusal to be temporarily foolish made her permanently foolish. Or consider the opposite. A 50-year-old accountant in Miami decided to learn salsa dancing. First class, he moved like a robot having a seizure. His 20-year-old instructor patiently corrected his basic steps while couples swirled around him. 6 months later, he's flowing across the floor, teaching beginners, alive in a way spreadsheets never made him feel. But only because he chose to endure those excruciating first weeks of looking ridiculous. The fear of looking stupid kills more dreams than failure ever could. How many books go unwritten because someone's afraid their first draft will suck? How many businesses never launch because the founder won't risk looking amateur? How many relationships stay surface level because being vulnerable means risking rejection? We choose the safety of competence over the growth of courage. But here's what's fascinating about looking stupid. It's temporary, while the growth is permanent. That executive struggling with push-ups. 6 months later, she's deadlifting her body weight. More importantly, choosing to be bad at something physical taught her to be vulnerable in other areas. She started asking dumb questions in meetings, admitting when she didn't understand something, seeking mentorship from younger colleagues. Her willingness to look foolish made her a better leader. The Stoics had a deeper insight here. When you're willing to look stupid, you're actually demonstrating wisdom. You're showing that you value growth over ego, learning over image, progress over perception. You're proving that your self-worth isn't dependent on others' opinions. That's not foolishness, that's freedom. Seneca practiced this deliberately. Despite being one of Rome's richest men, he'd regularly live like a pauper, sleeping on the floor, eating plain food, wearing rough clothes. Why? To prove to himself that his identity wasn't tied to his image. If he could be content looking foolish, then he was truly free. No one could control him through shame or pride. Modern psychology confirms what the Stoics intuited: the willingness to be vulnerable, to fail publicly, to admit ignorance. These are markers of psychological strength, not weakness. Researchers call it intellectual humility, and it correlates with better decision-making, stronger relationships, and faster learning. The person willing to ask the dumb question often learns what everyone else misses. A startup founder in Seattle shared how this principle saved his company. In investor meetings, instead of pretending to know everything, he openly admitted his knowledge gaps. "I don't understand that market yet. I need to learn more about that technology. Can you explain that concept?" Other founders thought he was committing suicide. Instead, investors appreciated his honesty, offered mentorship, and ultimately funded him. His willingness to look ignorant revealed his capacity to grow. But let's be honest about why this is so hard. We live in a performance culture. Everything's recorded, posted, judged. One moment of looking foolish can be screenshot and shared forever. The internet never forgets. The stakes of stupidity feel higher than ever, which makes the choice to be vulnerable even more powerful. When you choose to be bad before you're good, you're not just learning a skill. You're declaring independence from the tyranny of others' opinions. You're choosing growth over comfort, authenticity over appearance, long-term mastery over short-term image. You're embodying what Epictetus taught, that true education leads to freedom, and true freedom means not needing to appear educated. So here's your choice. Will you stay trapped in the prison of your competence, limited to what you already know, shrinking your world to avoid shrinking your ego? Will you let the fear of looking foolish keep you from becoming wise? Or will you choose the beautiful foolishness of the beginner, the productive stupidity of the learner, the liberating vulnerability of someone who values growth over image? That gym is still open. That class still has space. That new skill is still waiting. The only question is whether you're willing to look stupid long enough to become brilliant. Choice number 10. Seek hard things on purpose. Build an unbreakable mind. Imagine standing at the foot of a steep hill, gazing up at the summit. The sun is bright, the air is crisp, and the path is clear. You know the climb will be grueling, that your legs will burn, and your lungs will scream for relief. But what if I told you that this climb isn't just about reaching the top? It's about becoming someone capable of handling the weight of life's challenges. Seneca famously said, "Difficulties strengthen the mind, as labor does the body." This principle is at the heart of Stoic philosophy. The Stoics understood that life is filled with adversity, and rather than avoiding it, we should seek it out. They believed that true growth happens not in comfort but through challenges, discomfort, and even hardship. The question is, are you willing to seek those challenges on purpose? In a world that constantly incentivizes ease and comfort, actively choosing hard things can feel counterintuitive. We live in an age of convenience. Takeout instead of cooking, online tutorials instead of hands-on practice, streaming services instead of reading books. While there's nothing wrong with convenience, relying solely on it can lead to a softening of our resolve. It can create a mindset where we shy away from difficulty, preferring the path of least resistance. But this path leads to stagnation. Consider the story of a young woman named Claire who decided to take on a new challenge. She was a successful marketing manager, adept at her job but feeling unfulfilled. To shake things up, she signed up for a rigorous martial arts class. The first few weeks were brutal. She was out of shape, struggled with basic moves, and often left class feeling defeated. But rather than quit, Claire leaned into the discomfort. She set small goals, mastering a kick, improving her stamina, and showing up consistently, even when it was hard. Over time, Claire discovered that each visit to the dojo built not just her physical strength but mental fortitude. She learned to embrace discomfort, to push through the pain, and to find joy in the struggle. 6 months later, she earned her first belt and felt a sense of accomplishment that extended far beyond martial arts. She carried this newfound resilience into her work, tackling projects she once feared and leading her team with a confidence she hadn't known before. Seeking a hard challenge transformed her life. The Stoics believed that character is built through adversity. Marcus Aurelius, despite his status as Emperor of Rome, faced numerous hardships, from wars to plagues, and yet he used these experiences as opportunities to cultivate virtue. He wrote, "The impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way." This isn't just a poetic sentiment. It's a powerful reminder that obstacles are not merely to be endured, but embraced as catalysts for growth. This philosophy is especially relevant in our modern lives where we often shy away from challenges. We settle for jobs that don't inspire us, relationships that don't fulfill us, and routines that don't challenge us. We take the easy route and then wonder why we feel stagnant or unfulfilled. The Stoics would argue that true fulfillment comes from seeking out discomfort. Take a moment to reflect on your own life. What hard things have you avoided? What challenges have you shunned because they felt too daunting? Whether it's a difficult conversation with a loved one, a professional risk, or a physical challenge, avoiding discomfort often leads to regret. Imagine choosing to learn a new language as an adult. You might feel foolish struggling with pronunciation or grammar rules, especially when younger learners seem to pick it up effortlessly. But each mistake is a step toward mastery. Each awkward conversation is a chance to improve. This process of embracing the struggle is what the Stoics championed. The benefits of seeking hard things extend beyond individual growth. They ripple out into every aspect of our lives. When we tackle challenges head-on, we develop resilience, adaptability, and strength. We become less fearful of failure, more willing to take risks, and better equipped to handle the inevitable setbacks that life throws our way. Let's consider another example. A man named David, who worked as a software developer but felt trapped in the monotony of his daily life. He decided to confront his fear of public speaking by joining a local Toastmasters club. The first few meetings were excruciating for him. He was terrified of stumbling over his words and being judged. But each time he stepped up to speak, he felt the fear lessening. Over the course of a year, David not only became a competent speaker but also learned to thrive under pressure. He realized that the skills he developed in Toastmasters translated into confidence in his work presentations and meetings. His willingness to face the discomfort of public speaking made him a more effective communicator and a stronger leader. The Stoics teach us that the challenges we face are not obstacles but opportunities to build a stronger self. They encourage us to reflect on our experiences and extract lessons that contribute to our growth. When we seek hard things, we invite the potential for transformation. So, how do you start seeking hard things on purpose? Begin by identifying areas in your life where you feel stagnant or unfulfilled. Ask yourself, what scares me? What have I always wanted to try but never had the courage to pursue? This could be anything from starting a new fitness regimen, tackling a challenging project at work, or learning a new skill. Set small, actionable goals that push you outside your comfort zone. If you're interested in running a marathon, start with a manageable distance and gradually increase it. If you want to become a better writer, commit to writing a certain number of words each day, regardless of the quality. If you want to have deeper relationships, practice vulnerability by sharing your thoughts and feelings more openly. Embrace the discomfort that comes with these challenges. Understand that feeling uncomfortable is part of the process. Each struggle strengthens your resolve and fortifies your character. Remember, growth doesn't happen in a vacuum. It happens in the crucible of challenge. The Stoics remind us that the process of becoming stronger is just as important as the outcomes. The focus should not solely be on the end goal but on the journey itself. Every step taken in the face of difficulty is a victory worth celebrating. So here's your choice. Will you continue to avoid the hard things in life, choosing comfort over growth, safety over courage? Or will you embrace the challenges that will ultimately shape you into the person you want to be? Will you seek discomfort, knowing that it is the path to resilience and strength? The summit is waiting, but the choice to start climbing is yours. As we conclude our exploration of the 10 Stoic choices that will transform your life today, it's time to reflect on the journey we've taken together. Each choice we've discussed is not just an abstract concept. It's a powerful tool you can wield to reshape your life and cultivate resilience in the face of modern challenges. Stoicism teaches us that while we cannot control external events, we always have power over our responses, our actions, and our choices. Today, you stand at the threshold of transformation. Will you embrace the Stoic principles we've discussed? Or will the distractions of daily life pull you back into old patterns? The choice is yours. Let's quickly recap the 10 choices that can lead to a more meaningful and fulfilling life. Control only what's yours to control. Focus on what you can influence and let go of the rest. Start today, not tomorrow. Take action immediately instead of procrastinating. Refuse to suffer twice. Don't let anxiety over imagined problems rob you of peace. Say no to say yes to what matters. Prioritize your commitments and eliminate distractions. Treat your time like gold. Value your time as your most precious resource and invest it wisely. Stay calm when everything goes wrong. Cultivate emotional control and respond wisely to challenges. Never stop learning. Embrace a growth mindset and remain open to new knowledge and experiences. Stand up for those who can't. Use your privilege and voice to advocate for others and uphold justice. Be bad before you're good. Embrace the discomfort of being a beginner and learn through practice. Seek hard things on purpose. Face challenges intentionally to build mental resilience and strength. These choices are practical, actionable, and deeply rooted in Stoic philosophy. They empower you to live with intention, courage, and integrity. The journey to a Stoic life is about making conscious decisions every day that align with your values. Now, as you prepare to take action, I encourage you to choose one of these 10 Stoic choices and implement it in your life starting today. Maybe it's saying no to a commitment that doesn't serve you, or perhaps it's taking that first step toward a goal you've been putting off. Whatever it is, make the decision to act now. Remember that transformation doesn't happen in isolation. Share your journey with others. Engage with the Stoic community, whether it's through discussions, forums, or social media. By sharing your experiences, you not only reinforce your own commitment, but also inspire others to embark on their Stoic journeys. As you move forward, keep this countdown in mind. 3, 2, 1. Your first choice starts now. It's a call to action, an invitation to seize the moment and begin implementing what you've learned. Don't wait for the perfect time or the right conditions. The best time to act is always now. Thank you for joining me on this exploration of Stoic philosophy and practical choices. If you found value in this series, I encourage you to subscribe to the Stoic Vivu channel for more insights, inspiration, and practical wisdom. Together, we can cultivate a community dedicated to living with purpose and resilience. Your journey toward a Stoic life begins today. Embrace the choices ahead, and remember, the power of transformation lies within you.